バンババンバンバンビバノンノンいい湯だなははは、いい湯だなははは、湯気が天井からぽたりと背中に冷てえなははは、冷てえなははは、ここは北国登別の湯ババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバビバババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンいい湯だなははは、いい湯だなははは、誰が歌うかヤギ節がいいもんだあははいいもんだあはは、ここは上州草津の湯ババンババンバンバンハビバビバビバババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンいい湯だなははは、いい湯だなははは、湯気にかすんだ白い人影あの子かなははは、あの子かなははは、ここは紀州の白浜の湯ババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバビバビバババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンババンババンバンバンハビバノンノンいい湯だなバ
Hey, what up, YouTube? Thanks for coming out. This video is insane. I hope y'all stay until the end. There's a little bit of a surprise at the end. But if you like it at the very end, make sure to subscribe, like, follow, and leave a comment. See how it goes, you know? And make sure to hit the bell on the way out, pussy. Fuck you! Right to the
joio hon. A swn i'n joio mynd i'r gig yma ym Mhlas Glynweddw yn Llanbedrog ar nos Sadwrn y 26 o'r Ffennaf. 15 oedolion, 5 stan 18, Cassie a Gwenno Morgan yn perfformio. Mae honna yn mynd i fod yn noson arbennig. Yn sicr, swn ni yn licio mynd. Einir Dafydd rwan, un o'r lleisia neisia gowchi yn chwarae ar BBC Radio Cymru.
I'm a supporter of Christian charity Help the Persecuted. They're on the ground in 15 countries in the Muslim world, working to rescue, restore and rebuild the lives of persecuted Christians who have lost everything because of their faith. Salam, who was persecuted by Al-Qaeda and is now a leader on the team, explains.
In some Muslim countries and communities, rejection comes to those who convert to Christianity when they have lost everything.
Okay, the bigger issue in reality is the fact that some of them resigned since the election.
They've had to sack, for example, for racism. Look at the number we've now.
That was the point I was making. That's the point I'm making, right? But you can't come on this bloody show and start ranting off about cancer resigning after 8 weeks. It's garbage. Cut him off. I've had enough. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. It's garbage. 8 bloody weeks. Shall we go to a break?
We better take radio that can't keep its mouth shut. Nightlife on Talk.
Think summer can't get any better? It just did with Deliveroo's new Freshness Promise. Your fresh and chilled groceries are covered to give you peace of mind. Enjoy freshness or your money back. So whether you're grilling sausages and veggies in the garden or refilling the fridge with milk and more after your holiday, look out for the Freshness Promise badge in the Deliveroo app today. Now just got even better. Selected partners and items only. See badging at geographical restrictions, fees and T's and C's apply. See deliveroo.co.uk and FAQs.
I'm Professor Huggington, and I like to.
When your kid's favourite toy starts to run out of battery power, no need to worry. Your new batteries are already on their way, arriving today with Prime. Everyday essentials delivered fast. It's on Prime.
I'm Professor Huggington, and I like to hug.
Cut-off times and T's and C's apply. See product page when ordering.
Yes, that price includes full technical support.
Oh dear, the Buy Now button on each page isn't clickable.
Layla's web development agency will soon have more clients than they can handle. To avoid a code red, she needs new programmers.
Okay, I've just tweaked the code, so everything should be fine now.
Indeed can help her find great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Because Indeed's hiring platform makes finding great talent easy. To start hiring, visit Indeed.com/try today.
Argument, attitude, opinion. Have you got the guts for talk? Across the UK UK, the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Okay, this is the James Whale Show, and what an amazing night to have had James Whale on for that final ever interview with Nigel Farage. If you missed it, it is on YouTube. Okay, let's read out some of your messages. James Whale is a living legend, and so is Nigel Farage. A brilliant interview by two men who have so many people who dislike them, yet have both achieved more in their different ways than most. This goes on quite a long time. Yeah. I'm a Reform voter, and I'm going to be targeted and called a far-right racist like many Reform voters, but we're not. We're hard-working family people made up of all creeds and colours who only want the best for Britain and our children. At the moment, the politics of this country is so wrong on every level. We need to have a complete change of way everything is done, etc., etc., etc. Okay, let's go to... Pete spends too much time listening to people in Westminster to have...
Is he caught in that bubble? I mean, that's the thing. The only thing I would say about Nigel Farage and Reform is someone's get accused of not having professional people, but they're getting professional. And the other ones now are, you know, you look at the Tories and the Labour MP, they're lightweights, aren't they, compared to the old...
I think things are far too fluid to just say, this is definitely going to happen, that is definitely going to happen. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that we're not necessarily sure that this is the low watermark of Labour and the high watermark of Reform. I don't know what's going to happen in the next election. I think I don't know that all...
I think it's going to get worse for Labour. I can't see this country getting any... You know, there's a lot of agitation and I can't see it getting better. I can only see it slipping downhill the way it's going.
Is it the worst start you've ever seen of any government?
Yeah, of course it is. This is the worst state I've ever seen the country in my whole life. I mean, no one can disagree with that, what's going on. I mean, the country's disappearing.
Okay, let's go to Robert in Hertfordshire. Robert, you are on Talk.
Hertfordshire, Bob.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
All right, man.
You ain't going to sling me off as well, are you?
Get out.
I've got to be honest with you. I've got a headache. I can't do the shouty thing tonight. I can't do the shouting.
I mean, I really enjoyed James's interview, and I've got like bittersweet, really. I love him to bits. I wish I would have seen him take on James O'Brien now. I don't know if he ever has done.
No one's seen them in the same room, actually.
That would be the worst thing ever, though. It would be so frustrating, because James O'Brien just talks complete garbage all the time.
No, I'd like to see you take him on.
Do you know what? I just don't think he's very clever. I don't think he'd be particularly difficult to beat. All he does is he just uses his fader and throws people off, which I guess is hypocritical coming from me tonight.
Well, he done that to me. He done that to me. I was getting the better of him a few years ago, and he just pumped me off.
He's not a very good debater, and he doesn't have a lot of knowledge. He makes up a lot of stuff, to be absolutely honest.
He's quite clever at his word, the way he twists things around. And then when he says something, fades you down, and it seems like he's won. But that's how they do it.
I see Frank Lampard, his bottle well went, because he slagged Frank Lampard off once about his ex-wife, and he phoned up and his bottle well went, James.
That's right, I remember that. Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Rees-Mogg as well. Rees-Mogg slaughtered him.
Look, debating Rees-Mogg is a poor manoeuvre, let's be honest. So look, so do you agree that James Whale is right that Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister? And do you want him to be the next Prime Minister?
Right, okay, I'll tell you. I am a Reform member.
Yes.
And I don't trust him one bit.
Oh, really?
What? No, he's going to let us all down. He ain't going to... Look, the secret is, to him being successful, we have to come out of the ECHR. But it doesn't matter who it is. You could have the Grand Wizard take over. Until we come out of that, nobody will be able to do anything. Nothing.
But don't you think, what's the alternative? A lot of people are saying what you're saying, but they're saying, I'm still going to vote for them because they're the only, option. Well, who would you vote for then?
No, he's terrified of the Islamic vote.
But who are you going to vote for then, Rob?
UKIP's the one. They're the ones who go.
I mean, Nick Tanconi is simply not a socialist, is he? Let's just be honest.
No. He's my Facebook friend, actually.
He phoned me the other day. He's quite a nice bloke, actually. We should get him on, you know.
All right, yeah.
Get Nick Tanconi.
But he's not going to become Prime Minister, is he, Rob? So you're sort of throwing your vote away now.
Take the second
exit. But Reform have only got 6 more seats than UKIP.
That's a reasonable point.
What do you mean? That UKIP haven't got any seats?
Well, that's right. So Reform have only got...
Right. I see, but in the next election, they're going to get a lot more seats, aren't they?
Well, I think what it is as well, if you look it up, that's the reason that Farage left UKIP, because he was worried about their stance on the Islam vote. He is absolutely terrified.
But isn't there a problem? Isn't there a problem about the purists, where you're never purist enough? I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a friend of mine who opened up a vegan restaurant, right, and faced a boycott from vegans because he allowed people to walk in with leather shoes. Right, there's always going to be somebody who goes, you haven't gone far enough. I mean, Pete Barnes was right in the following respect, which is that Reform and Nigel Farage suffer from a problem. They don't have broad base appeal to the extent that, say, the Labour Party or the Conservatives do. And he's got to do something about that, Nigel Farage has. And it's
but
not...
aren't they doing it, the Tories and Labour?
Well, but you can't... I mean, the solution to having broad appeal, like it or not, is not to wander around with Tommy Robinson. It just isn't.
Well, no, I don't agree. I mean, as I said to you before, my cousin's in his inner circle, and there's a lot of things that Tommy does that you don't really know about. And I said to you before, I think he is as significant as Nelson Mandela. And it might sound ridiculous, but it certainly isn't.
Well, no, but this isn't a debate about one individual. The point I'm making is that there will always be the purists at the fringes of every political party, but the main thrust of the party has to be much more moderate. Anyway, thank you so much, Robert. Roy is in Hampshire. Roy, you're on talk.
Good evening, lads.
All right, Roy.
Hello.
What's up, man? What's your views?
Well, I enjoyed the interview, mate, but what I'd like to see was the Tories and Reform get together.
Take the second exit.
I mean, I don't think the Tories are... I don't know if you're going to like me saying this, but, you know, our last Prime Minister, he got in through the back door. We've got now a Nigerian lady in charge of the Conservatives.
I don't think she's of Nigerian descent, is she?
I think she is, but it's slightly unfair to call her Nigerian. I mean, she is from Britain, isn't it? No, she's not. She wasn't born in...
No.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter?
She's born in Wimbledon.
Why doesn't either David Davis or Smith, who used to be the leader of the party, come in and lead the party and get...
Do you not think the Conservative Party's a little bit dead at the moment? I mean, it may come back to life. But I mean, whatever Kemi Badenoch does, she's going to struggle, isn't she?
No, I like her. I like the other lady. I forget her name.
Liz Truss.
The Indian lady.
Oh, Priti Patel.
She was very good.
No, Braverman.
Priti Patel, Braverman, Suella Braverman.
Suella Braverman.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked her.
You know,
she was the one who said multiculturalism has failed, and anyone else said that would be accused of racist. Because she said it changed the Overton window, and people could openly say it. So she's done a lot, and she doesn't mind saying how it is, as Priti Patel did as well.
Yeah, maybe, mate.
They can't be accused of racism. That's the thing. That's the good thing about them.
Yeah, but you know, I'm not a racialist. You know,
yeah, you would say that.
With coloured people the greatest people in the world were the little Johnny Gurkers. You know, that I served with. You know, they were good old boys.
Yeah. So did Tony Hart.
All my life, I've worked with different nationalities.
So you work with the Gurkhas? Tell us about that, then.
Well, I can't really, mate.
Oh, you'd have to kill us, yeah. All right.
I had a friend of mine who told me the story about when Windsor Castle had a fire, and they had to go around telling the Gurkhas to leave their post because they just would have stood in the burning building and stayed there, apparently.
Yeah. But what I can't understand, we've got the greatest people. I've served with them. The SBS, the Special Boat Service. You could put them in the channel and turn those boats round.
You don't need the SBS to do that. Just the Navy could do. Anyone. Forces can do that.
No.
There's no political will.
Special forces.
No, it doesn't matter who the special forces are. Whether it's hang on a second. It's not an issue of capability. It's an issue of political will.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, but when I say the SBS or the Royal Marines, because they've got that capability.
You don't need to turn the boats around so you can come here, but you're just going on this island and having tents, and they'll soon get the message you won't want to come here because they're coming here for the 4-star hotels and the lifelong benefits. You do what Australia do. You don't even have to do that. Just go, will you come in, and you live in there.
Yeah, Andre, I'll ask you a question.
Yep.
You used to work in Parliament,
I did.
Yeah. Did you ever go down in the nuclear shelters?
No, I'll tell you the honest story. There was a fire alarm in our building one day, and they said, and I didn't leave, and they came in and they said, why haven't you left the building, there's an alarm? And I said, because I don't know what the alarm's for, because if the building's under attack and an alarm goes off, walking out into the street I would suggest is a poor move. And what they said is, there are arrangements to protect you if there's an emergency, but somebody will talk over the tannoy rather than the alarm. I'll tell you what I was a member of. I was a member of the House of Lords Rifle Club, where unfortunately somebody accidentally shot a bullet in the wrong direction. It went out of the rifle range and almost hit somebody. It was often said of me that I've been in every room in the Palace of Westminster other than the gym, which may be a little bit.
A mate of mine, he was in the print. He used to print secret documents.
Really?
And he belonged to the Civil Service Boxing Club, and the entrance was down at Horseferry Road, and we used to go down into the nuclear shelters.
Oh, yeah.
But Horseferry Road would be, I mean, that's much further up. I suppose it's...
Haven't they got a new nuclear shelter they built when they did the Jubilee line extension?
I'd have thought so.
Have I said too much?
I'd have thought so. Well, I mean, look, if somebody drops a nuke on London, you've got no chance anyway. It's more of the smaller bombs. OK, thank you so much, Roy. Thank you so much for all of you who phoned in. But please do keep your calls going in. 03444991000. We've got Danielle Nichols coming up just in a couple of moments. Oh, you're meant to go out to the break.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, but anyway, we've got the press preview. 03444991000. So yeah, Danielle's going to be on Zoom. It's me and Andre, but give us
at Virtual Ash.
At Virtual Ash. At Andre JP Walker on Twitter. At the James Whale. Twitter him and tell him to come on next week. But now it's time for the news. It's Talk. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Where do we go next?
Talk. News. Update on the hour headlines.
From the Sky News Centre at 11. Donald Trump has filed a libel lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch, 2 reporters and News Corp. It follows a report by the Wall Street Journal claiming Mr. Trump's name appeared on a personal note to Jeffrey Epstein sent in 2003. The US president says the story is false, malicious and defamatory. Police say a child who died in a school bus crash in Somerset was a 10-year-old boy. 6 children and 3 adults remain in hospital after the coach slid down a 20-foot embankment near Minehead late yesterday afternoon. They've been returning from a trip to the zoo. Local MP Rachel Gilmore says she, like many others in the community, is shocked.
I'm a new MP. I've never had to deal with this before, and I'm actually really surprised by how much it hurts.
A video appearing to show a police van driving into a protester has been reported to officers in Essex, where anti-immigration protests left 8 emergency workers injured. It happened outside a hotel in Epping, housing asylum seekers. There have been demonstrations since the detention of a 38-year-old asylum seeker accused of sexual assault. Holly Whitbread is a member of the local council. She says people want the hotel shut down.
We had an arson attack linked to the hotel, and then we had a sexual assault of a schoolgirl linked to the hotel. So people are rightly angry and concerned, but there is absolutely no need for violence in any of these circumstances. And as a council, we've been pushing for the hotel to close.
Police aren't taking any further action against Kneecap for their Glastonbury set. Bob Villan's performance is still under review. Both artists are known for their outspoken support for Gaza. Heavy thunderstorms are on the way for some of us. Warnings have upgraded to amber for London and the South East. And Arsenal have signed winger Noni Madueke from London rivals Chelsea in a £52 million deal. The England internationals agreed a 5-year contract. That's the latest. I'm Daisy Steele.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Fast talking, max strength conversation. Nightlife on Talk.
I hate to be nasty, but the Reform Party have only lost 2 seats since the May elections, and both of them they only won in the May elections, so they had them both for 8 weeks.
We better get Pete back for a ride as well.
It's just not a worthwhile statistic. Anyway, this is the paper review with Andre Walker, Asher Gould and Danielle Nichols. Danielle!
Hey you there, Danielle.
Where are you?
Hey up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
We can't see you though. Oh, there you are. Oh, you look nice. You look like
Hello.
nice hair.
Thank you. I'll go for straight hair.
Nice.
Can I just say, I've got an absolute, complete, ridiculous amount of respect for single parents who are trying to work from home, because Dean's away pre-season, so I've got the kids, and just trying to get set up tonight was impossible, because I don't know how you could get any work done. They just keep asking questions, and then I'm just about 5 seconds from the absolute end of my tether, and I went, what now? Like you do.
So how old is your youngest?
Well, my youngest is 7, and I went, what now? And he went like this. Drawing you a picture.
Let's see it. Let's see the picture.
And he went, that's mummy and daddy. And then my little girl, who's 11, said, well, you have to show my picture if you're going to show Chase's picture.
Beautiful.
Turn left. Yeah, so there we go. Just when it was
You've done that yourself, haven't you? They haven't drawn pictures at all. That's your own art. I've seen it before.
I was that far from just going, do you know what? What do you want now? And he was like,
so might they come in the shot, like? Might they come now and come behind you, go, Mummy? Or have you tethered them?
They want to, and I've said, no, you're going upstairs.
Well,
my
favourite story was when your husband was manager of Charlton Athletic, and it was a crunch match, a crucial match, and you said that he'd been pestered with somebody going, can you get me some chicken McNuggets from Just...
For now, it's over to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
At the roundabout.
Welcome to Patrick Christie's Tonight Late Edition. It's the first look at your front pages, any breaking news, and a couple from inside the book as well. So let's rattle through these papers then. Just remind you of what's on the Daily Mail. Secret Afghan airlift, revenge of the Taliban. Warlords' vengeful killing spree against hundreds of Afghans. After that day's leak, their picture story at the bottom there, I mean, it's a corker, this. I feel desperately sorry, not for these two in the picture, but for their respective partners. A raging wife and why Coldplay Kiss Cam Cuddle could cost that tech boss 30 million quid. Well, I haven't had the chance to see exactly what's the full story on page 5 of the Mail is, but I imagine that's divorce. Anyway, let's go to the Sun. Yeah, they've got for Evil Huntley. This is Ian Huntley, the killer, the Soham murderer, is wearing a Manchester United shirt behind bars, apparently, just like his female victims. I mean, the guy's a total scumbag, isn't he? But there we go. The Daily Express. PM's doom loom means yet more tax rises. Kemi Badenoch says Labour's handling of the economy is leaving a toxic legacy. There's a picture of one of the Lionesses there saying they're now into the game against Italy. So well done, Lionesses. Hopefully it doesn't go to penalties. Because they'll be here all night if it does. Let's go to the Times. Russia spies unmasked as UK takes on the Kremlin. Salisbury operatives amongst those sanctioned. A little bit more detail on this for you. Russian spies accused of targeting Britain and the West with assassination attempts, cyber hacking and sabotage have been unmasked in the UK's biggest set of sanctions. The Mirror, Harry's last hope, so they've got a royal exclusive, although, to be honest with you, I think this is, to be fair on the Mirror, just more like common sense. So Prince Harry might never be able to mend the rift with his father. They say that it's now or never, though, right? Because if he doesn't mend the rift, there's definitely no reconciliation under Prince William, so it's now or never for Harry. The Telegraph, several good stories on the front page of The Telegraph. The picture story of Danny Dyer, who actually, Jane did say resembled a little bit Lord Lucan, which would be good actually, because then it would have mean we'd found him. But no, he says Starmer's no leader, he's a non-entity. But the main stories are Afghan migrant brought 22 relatives. So this is the latest development in that story. There's also one here. President Trump has ordered the release of Epstein papers as he faces crisis. Now, from what I can gather, he's also looking to personally sue Rupert Murdoch, who, what would you say, is the world's largest media baron? Would you say that probably? So that's going to get tasty. I think we've got one more for you. It's the weekend. UK fuel duty is set to be frozen again in the cost of living boost. The Chancellor needs to find tax rises to fill the growing hole in Britain's public finances, but a hike in petrol duty will not be her chosen solution. Right, so that's the round of front pages. We're going to zone in on the Daily Telegraph, and we're going to do it because of that story. Afghan migrant brings 22 relatives. Jonathan Gullis, your initial assessment of this story and any detail within it that you'd like to...
Well, I think, first of all, what's quite concerning is that in the Telegraph it mentions that Afghan migrants have been brought as many as 22 family members to the UK after relatives previously rejected for asylum were allowed in following the military data breach. So I think this goes to the point about, are we bringing people to this country who rightly deserve to be, who served our armed forces and helped keep them safe? Those people, absolutely without question, and their direct family, aka their wife, for example, and their children should be brought to this country. That is a moral duty that we should be willing to repay. My concern is, as we've heard from other reports, is that 1 in 16 are only actually eligible who have come over so far. So how many people coming over have done so because their name happened to be on the list, because they had applied to try and get over here, but actually obviously ended up not actually having any verifiable or relevant claim to come, and it just further fuels the confusion and the chaos that's been brought by this serious data breach.
So there is, Jane, as well, another detail that apparently now the average number of people that the Afghans who were flown to Britain brought with them is 8. So the average amount of people brought over per person who was on that list is 8.
Yeah, but it does say here that defence ministers wanted it to be really limited to married couples and their children, but the UK court cited the ECHR and said they had to widen it. So this is why, again, we talked about the ECHR earlier, these human rights claims are getting ridiculous.
There's also...
Jane, you've got to actually counter that with what's on the front page of the Daily Mail, which is the revenge of the Taliban. And it talks about the warlords' vengeful killing spree against hundreds of Afghans after the data leak. Now, you see, the point is, we know what those guys are like. If they can't get you, they'll get your family. If they can't get your close family, they'll get your extended family.
It's true, but we can't evacuate everybody from Afghanistan.
No, we can't. But the point is, because of the stupidity of that guy who leaked this or mislaid this list, and it then became public property. It's not that they had an entitlement, and Johnson's right. They didn't have that entitlement to come here beforehand. They were deemed not to have it.
Yeah.
But we then gave it to them because that put them in danger in Afghanistan. They then did have a well-founded fear of persecution in their country. And that's the stupidity of this.
I think the other anger I share on this, and many of the public do as well, is once again we've got a situation where no one's been held accountable for this serious data breach. There appears to have been months, if not over a year, between when this breach happened and when ministers who are elected to run government departments, oversee the civil service, be accountable to the people, were even informed that this had actually taken place, and ultimately it does stink of a civil service cover-up. What's going on in Afghanistan are people who, yes, had their names on a list, many of whom maybe weren't actually directly helping our forces, but are now losing their lives.
I'm just reading into this Daily Mail article, which is on your screens now if you're watching us. So one man was shot by a gunman, the Taliban gunman, who stepped from an alley on Monday and fired 4 bullets at close range into his chest. That was one of 3 assassinations in the last 7 days. This is going to get very interesting, because there are going to be calls by some people for us to go and take more people now, aren't there? Because of this. They're going to see what's on the front of the Daily Mail, and they're going to say, well, as a result of this revenge for the list thing, the Taliban is slotting people left, right and centre. If we deemed ourselves to be culpable enough to take in however many Afghans it turns out we've taken in the first place, are we going to be on the hook for a load of people more?
The point here, though, Patrick, is this, that they say panic has been spreading in Afghanistan amongst these people who were on that list. but actually most of those people, we can't take them from Afghanistan. Most of the people who we have taken and are taking are actually already across the border in Pakistan. It's the people in Afghanistan who are going to have this vendetta meted out against them by the Taliban, and there's nothing we can do about bringing them here because you can't go in Afghanistan and get a visa to go out.
Yeah, unless you're willing to do some sort of deal, which I think would be unconscionable and unstomachable for any government with the Taliban.
But
because and then again,
you
who
have
are you
to
bringing?
identify
Exactly.
people, and then they won't make.
Well, the Germans have just done a deal though with the Taliban to send people the other way. Germany has decided to do a deal with the Taliban. Now, this is an interesting point actually when it comes to the ECHR as well. Because Germany very much in the ECHR clearly. Doing a deal with the Taliban to deport people back to Afghanistan. I don't see how they can do that and be in the ECHR as well.
Because what they would say, I take it, is that those people are not at specific risk of being persecuted by the Taliban. Now, these people, because they have said that they help the British forces, that's why.
Surely if you're a lawyer though, yeah, I get that, I might be what they're saying, but I mean, I'm just looking to see if they've got anything like the kind of legal profession that we've got in this country. I mean, good grief, if a lawyer, if you can manage to get someone not sent back to a country like, I don't know, Albania or wherever because of some foreign chicken.
Or Rwanda was unsafe.
Yeah, I mean,
Rwanda was unsafe.
How on earth is the Germans going to be able to send back? But if they do, then surely that's a sign for us that there are certain countries like Afghanistan, like Eritrea, like Sudan, where we can actually send people.
I think it's important to remember when it comes to the ECHR, look, if the French, for example, had a case where they deported someone, they then were taken to court, and the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, said you have to bring that person back. And the French government went, no. And they just stared out the European court, and guess what? They said, fine us if you want to. And they therefore didn't comply. We are, in this, as a signatory, as a country, far more compliant with ECHR rulings than many other signatories. So for those who say we can do this within the ECHR, it's about having the bravery to go, we're not going to simply obey every ruling that comes. We're going to make a decision in our national interest, and let's see who blinks first. It's a game of chicken.
I just want to cast people's attention to another story. Actually, to be fair, it also has to be on the front of the Daily Telegraph, but I mean, it is a big story. President Trump orders the release of the Epstein papers as he faces crisis. We're going to talk about this more in a second, but I want to leave you with a bit of detail on this. So, Donald Trump ordered the release of the secret documents related to Jeffrey Epstein after a lewd birthday card he allegedly sent to the paedophile financier sparked the biggest crisis of his presidency. The US Attorney General was preparing to instruct a federal court to unseal grand jury transcripts from Epstein's 2019 sex trafficking case after the US president called for the publication of any personal testimony. There is another story involved in this as well.
Pertinent is the relevant word.
Yes.
Now, Pam Bondi has been poring over those papers for a long time. First of all, she said that she had them on her desk. Then she said that she didn't have them. He said they didn't exist. Now he's calling for their release. So, in all of that time, what has been deemed to be pertinent in this case, and what has been deemed not to be? Why didn't he just say, release all the papers?
Yeah, well, this is a mess of his own making.
Yeah.
You know, he did campaign on this during the presidential election, and ultimately it's come to bite him in the backside, and now MAGA, the MAGA movement as it were, is tearing itself apart, with those being fiercely loyal to President Trump and Pam Bondi, and those who are on the other side saying you made a clear promise on the JFK files, on the Epstein files, and you haven't delivered.
I'm just going to say something here. So President Trump is apparently thinking of suing Rupert Murdoch because the Wall Street Journal published what they claimed was a birthday card that President Trump sent to Jeffrey Epstein. President Trump absolutely denies that he sent this card. However, within what the Wall Street Journal are saying, they've said that there was a thing in that birthday card that said that they had, quote, certain things in common. Mr. Trump has furiously denied it. Apparently the birthday card ended with, a pal is a wonderful thing, happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. Enigmas never age. which is, but Trump
there
denies
was more than that, Patrick.
Trump denies all.
There was more than that, because the whole thing was in a drawing, supposedly, allegedly, of a naked woman, and the pubic hair of the naked woman was supposed to be Donald Trump's signature. Now, if true, that is somewhat incriminating.
Well, there we go. Well, again, I am absolutely, vociferously saying that Trump completely denies it. I mean, he says this whole thing is bogus. He says it's completely made up, and he is taking legal action against Rupert Murdoch, apparently for it. So, it's going to be one hell of a lawsuit, isn't it? But there we go. So we're going to talk a bit about this.
Allegedly.
Yeah, fair enough. But just wanted to be safe. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about this in a bit more detail. I think we're going to go stateside for an expert on this latest. It is a huge story, really. It's going to have international consequences of the highest order. So stay tuned.
There's style, and then there's impeccable British style of Brooke Taverner. Tailored, timeless, and unmistakably you. Wherever your day takes you, whatever the occasion, none the best. With over 100 years of quality and craftsmanship, you'll have the perfect style for every occasion. The Brooke Taverner Summer Collection. Available in store or visit brooktaverner.co.uk.
Car owners, you could be owed thousands in compensation. If you bought a car on finance from 2007 onwards, it may have been sold with hidden commissions. Text cash to 86688. My Claim Group. Authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. You don't need to use a CMC. You can claim direct to your lender and the Financial Ombudsman for free. Text cash to 86688.
Claims made simple.
Don't miss the latest deals at the GBN shop, proud sponsor of the AI Sports Report.
Arsenal have completed the £48 million transfer of Chelsea player Noni Madueke. The 23-year-old becomes Mikel Arteta's fourth signing of the summer and is understood to have signed a 5-year deal at the Emirates. However, Maduike's move across London has been met with severe criticism by Arsenal supporters on social media. Thousands have signed a petition against the move. Despite the backlash, the forward said he was happy with the transfer, adding, "It's already a great team with a clear identity, and I can't wait to bring my style to the team." That's the latest sport. For more, go to gbnews.com.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and pick up the perfect gift for the GB News fan in your life. Members get 20% off all branded merchandise.
With UK Export Finance, I'm fulfilling more export orders from around the world with working capital support.
Export insurance means I'll get paid when exporting to challenging markets.
At UK Export Finance, we believe no viable UK export should fail for lack of finance or insurance. Between 2023 and 2024, we provided £8.8 billion of government-backed trade finance to support UK exports. Learn how we could help you win export contracts, fulfill orders, and get paid. Search UK Export Finance today.
Looking for quality windows and doors? At Windows Trade Plus, we've made it incredibly simple and fast to self-install. Simply design and order online through our easy-to-use platform. With over 20 years of manufacturing excellence and lightning-fast delivery nationwide, we have supplied thousands of homeowners to transform their properties cost-effectively. From stylish UPVC windows to elegant composite doors, we've got everything you need for DIY and supply only. Visit windowstradeplus.co.uk.
Okay, it's the Epstein question, which President Trump can't seem to get away from. The latest is this: the president is absolutely now suing the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch after they published a report.
In a spot where the umpire can see it. I don't mean catch it literally on my chest protector, but directly in front of my sternum, I would try and catch it with slight shifts from side to side, no sudden movements.
Now, I want to talk
who just talked about speaking with Dan Bongino and that he's doing fine. And then what more do you have on the divisions within the Trump administration around this? For example, J.D. Vance doing damage control and more. And how damaging is this that Trump is telling his own supporters he doesn't care about them anymore, insulting them by calling them weaklings, saying this is a Democratic plot, when in fact it's come up a groundswell from within the MAGA movement.
Right. Well, when you talk to people close to Donald Trump, whether it's those who work in the upper echelons of his second administration or other Trump advisors, or just people in his broader social and political orbit, one recurring element that they'll tell you in recent days is, look, the way Donald Trump is conducting himself publicly and the way he keeps talking about this and trying to post through it online, it is making it exceedingly difficult for some of his biggest supporters and boosters to not start at least suspecting that he has something to hide, or maybe even that, well, he's kind of acting like someone who is in the so-called Epstein files in some sort of embarrassing or nefarious way. Whether he is or isn't, that's an issue for transparency that Trump and the federal government have the power to follow through on. They're just absolutely refusing to right now and playing all of these different bait and switch games. So, like anybody who follows the MAGA fever swamps, even casually, can see that this isn't something that's not going away anytime soon, and that this is something that, as much as they would like to say over and over and over again, Donald Trump is promulgating these ridiculous conspiracy theories that, Obama and Hillary Clinton wrote the Epstein files, in part maybe to try to get Trump.
Wait a second.
That's something that just does not stand for people who adore Donald Trump, generally speaking, because that's a conspiracy theory that was just invented out of thin cloth by Donald Trump and is just not anywhere in the MAGA lore about what these Epstein files may or may not say. And to your other question about what is going on within the actual federal government, not just in far-right influencer communities or whatever, something we flicked at in our reporting over the past 9 days or so at Rolling Stone is an element which actually hasn't really permeated that much in national political media for going on for quite a while, at least several months. Attorney General Pam Bondi and other officials in Trump's appointed federal law enforcement, like Trump hyper-loyalist Kash Patel, who is, of course, now director of the FBI, they do not like each other. There's been petty feuds and long-simmering tension between them, for personal tension between the two of them for quite some time. And this whole Epstein debacle has only exacerbated that and brought that back to the fore. And also, even more so than that, it's definitely no secret nowadays that the number two at the FBI, Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi, are incredibly distrustful of each other, especially with this whole Epstein mess, and really, really do not like each other to the point where anybody of any level of influence you talk to in Trumpland or within the federal government right now will tell you that Dan Bongino has basically torched his reputation or standing, as it were, with other senior lieutenants in the Trump administration, and that no matter how long he officially stays on the job right now, his days are numbered, both because of his own antipathy for this situation and the bridges that he has just burned completely into the sea of his matter. So all of this, it's not hyperbole at all to say that the Epstein affair, as it is right now, has kind of set the Trump administration at its very highest levels on fire and has threatened to tear it apart in the form of, we don't know what in the next week or two necessarily the makeup of leadership of federal law enforcement is going to be. I also think it is not an exaggeration at all to say that over this issue, within the past less than 2 weeks, President Trump has managed to sustain more political damage and self-inflicted blowback on himself than he did when he literally bombed Iran last month. That is an objectively wild thought to consider or to fathom. But if you know anything about how the MAGA grassroots function, it is weirdly expected with how this administration has been going lately.
Sun Subsang, I want to thank you so much for being with us, senior political reporter at Rolling Stone. We will link to your articles inside Trump's frantic failing mission to crush the Epstein MAGA rebellion and blaming Obama, crooked Hillary. Trump's Epstein memo meltdown gets even worse. Next up, we go to a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein. We turn to Teresa Helm. Stay with us.
Program support provided by Nusenda Credit Union, dedicated to helping New Mexico communities build stronger futures and helping members reach their goals through the power of we. More information about Nusenda Credit Union at nusenda.org.
Si soy fruto de algo que no tiene nombre, el error que no comete nunca el hombre. ¿Por qué me temes? ¿Por qué me temes? Si estoy hecha para estar arrepentida y mi historia se ha quedado ya sin vida. ¿Por qué me temes?
Temes by Ile, performing in our Democracy Now! Studio. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Missing in much of the MAGA frenzy over the Jeffrey Epstein files are the voices of survivors of the sexual abuse he perpetrated against them. Many, like our next guest, have joined the call for transparency and for the Trump administration to release the files as promised. This comes as Virginia Giuffre, an outspoken survivor of sex trafficking by Jeffrey Epstein, died apparently by suicide at age 41 in April. She was the first survivor to come out publicly against Epstein and his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, who remains in prison. She also sued Prince Andrew for sexually assaulting her when she was 17. The disgraced prince was forced to step away from his royal duties and settled with Giuffre in 2022. Her family said in a statement, quote, Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. She was the light that lifted so many survivors, unquote. Just last week, when the FBI and Department of Justice announced there was, quote, no incriminating client list, it also said Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims over 2 decades, far more than previously known. For more, we're joined by Teresa Helm, who is a survivor of sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein, facilitated by Ghislaine Maxwell. She was assaulted by Epstein in the early 2000s. She now works as the Survivor Services Coordinator for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Her 2024 piece for Newsweek is headlined, I'm a Jeffrey Epstein Survivor. The documents are an opportunity. Thank you so much for joining us. You, Teresa Helm, have talked about the dangers of grooming. As you see all of this taking place, the uprising within the MAGA movement, lost are what sexual violence survivors go through. Talk about how you first met Jeffrey Epstein, how you were brought to him, how you were groomed.
Well, hello, good morning. I can certainly talk to that. So I was attending college out in California at the time, and I was a full-time student and a full-time employee there. And so that began the process of recruitment to grooming, passed along the line from various people as far as this is an opportunity that I'd like for you to see if you're interested in and go talk to this person. So after speaking with a couple young women about an opportunity that I thought I was being blessed with at the time, I eventually met with Ghislaine Maxwell, who really, what she did was pretty astounding in the fact that within a day, I was convinced that I was in a safe, healthy wonderful environment, blessed with an opportunity to pursue a career that I had only dreamed of having. In fact, that was my dream, to do what she had stated I would do alongside her, working for her. She was very polite and kind. She built trust in a very, within hours, I thought that I had really landed the opportunity of a lifetime. My family was very pleased that I was there interviewing with her, which is what the intention, that's what I thought I was there for, was an interview. And things went so amazingly well. And then she was so successful in all of that, very, I would call it, master manipulation. She was very calculated in her craft and did it very well. I was very young. I mean, I was an adult, 22 years old. However, I had such big dreams and aspirations and determination, and really wanted to make the most of this opportunity that I thought that I was getting, to the point where at the end of my time with Ghislaine Maxwell, although I hadn't known that there was a partner, as she referred to him, that I would be meeting at the end of my time with her, I hadn't heard Jeffrey or any other person's name the entire time, from beginning sitting behind the desk at work in California at the college, to meeting Sarah Cullen at the beach, to who then introduced me to Ghislaine. I had no idea that there was a final person that I was going to go meet. And once I learned of him by the name of Jeffrey, I did not, I paused and thought about some things, waved any kind of red flag in my mind, because again, she was so, Ghislaine was so good at what she had done and built that trust in me. And so then I walked myself to Jeffrey's home later that day to what I thought was to interview with him, without really a lot of question, actually being quite excited, because I thought, well, if I was so successful here with Ghislaine, which he has really made me believe that I have been, and now I get the opportunity to go complete this, like a second round of the interview. And that was really, I walked myself into tragedy. I had no idea. I actually should, and I will reframe that. I didn't walk myself into tragedy. I was lured there. I was coaxed there, coerced there, under false and fraudulent, conditions and expectations.
And it was then that Jeffrey Epstein assaulted you?
That's right. There in his very big, beautiful home there in Manhattan. The home that Ghislaine was raving about after I had been complimenting her on her home and speaking about the different various buildings and the architecture and how much I enjoyed it, and comparing different cities to New York. And then she raved about his. If I thought hers was great, wait till I see his. Yeah, so it was there.
So you have joined the call for the Epstein files to be released. Can you explain why you feel this is so important?
Where I stand with all of this is in, utter solidarity with survivors of this entire nightmare that's just been ongoing for decades, with these people that have gotten away with so much for so long. Whether it was a failure of the system back in the 90s, whether failure of the system again in the early 2000s. There are so many women, and at the time even, children, that have been harmed by these people. I really urge everyone to focus the commitment, the attention, all this time, effort, and energy onto bringing to light what needs to bring to light for these survivors and their healing, and less about political weaponization of anything, because at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about people's lives, and it should not be weaponized either way in any administration, no matter who's in control at the time, who did what when, who's doing what now. Transparency is key, because we cannot move forward as a society and as a culture without these fundamental changes of doing the right thing and holding people accountable, because we can't continue to have systems of power that just get away, or people, whether it's a system or a person. We cannot continue to have these people or systems continue to get away with anything that they can get away with, because they're skating through, they're dodging accountability, there's too much money involved, so people silence through money. We have got to change it's degrading our society to continue to allow these predators and perpetrators to get away with harming so many people. Those that harm and exploit, they have to be silenced, not the survivors continuing to be silenced. Because when you don't have accountability, you don't have justice. We are so far out of balance with justice. It's almost like, Lady Liberty, she can take a small step to the ground, because we're so uneven, where survivors are clinging on to the hope, which tends to be, one thing that you can't take away from a survivor. It's how we get here. We survive through it because we have so much hope. But hope tends to get shattered often. And it's like, the onus is on us to pick up the pieces and try to get louder and louder. Our silence it's very loud within us.
Turn right.
We have to then, we're tasked with rising back up, fighting bigger, fighting louder, screaming from the mountaintops, like, who is going to do something? Because we are setting horrible influences to our children and to our youth of what you can and can't get away with, depending on who you are, what position you are in. And as I said, I just feel like oftentimes we have these huge profile cases where people are harming others, and there's just such a big, did this really happen to you? Well, if it did, what about this? We have to get to the point where we are survivor focused in the justice system, because we're such a huge part of it that we have to stop politicizing everything and listen to the survivors, listen to the ones that have the lived experience. You cannot take this experience. People can say there's nothing there. You cannot take the lived experience away from us. Not that we wanted it in the first place, but here it is. It lives with us. It remains with us. We're fighting for justice. You cannot take away our lived experience.
Well, Teresa Helm, I want to thank you so much for being with us. We're going to link to your piece. I'm a Jeffrey Epstein survivor. The documents are an opportunity. When we come back, we're going to go to Ro Khanna in the Capitol, who is introducing a bill to deal with the Epstein files, to have them released. Stay with us.
Your connection to KUNM brings you community news, worldly music, and cultural programming that makes a difference. You can visit protectmypublicmedia.org to understand more about why public media is essential and how it's being impacted. Get the facts and find out how to help keep stations like KUNM thriving at protectmypublicmedia.org.
You agree, yeah. Ready to turn right.
Hey, you'd agree. They kill children in the park.
Turn right.
Murder youth unarmed. They stand on the corner, claiming space that's ours. Hey, they kill
Garner poem by Mourning a Black Star in our Democracy Now! Studio. Thursday marked the 11th anniversary of the police killing of Eric Garner, who died after a New York police officer held him in a chokehold. Eric Garner's pleas of "I can't breathe," captured on video by a witness, became a global rallying cry against police brutality. The now ex-NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo remains a free man after a jury in the Justice Department declined to charge him for the killing of Eric Garner. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. In a growing political storm for President Trump, some Democrats have joined his MAGA base in pressuring President Trump for more disclosures of the Epstein files. Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna introduced a measure with Republican Congressmember Thomas Massie of Kentucky. At least 9 Republicans signed on to the so-called discharge petition, which requires 218 signatures to bypass House leadership and force a vote. Congressmember Ro Khanna joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congressmember Khanna, can you lay out what you're calling for and where it stands now?
It's pretty straightforward. We're calling for the full release of the Epstein files while protecting, of course, victims' identity and making sure no child pornography is released. The bill that Thomas Massie and I have introduced has every Democrat backing it and 9 Republicans. That means that when we can have the discharge petition, we will be able to get a vote on it. Unfortunately, the Republicans blocked us from getting a vote last night. They could have just had the vote last night. We have to wait until the August recess is over to be able to do the discharge petition. But as soon as we come back after Labor Day, we will be able to vote on this and we will pass it.
How do you respond to President Trump saying he wants to release the grand jury testimony? This is a tiny fraction of the documents. And of course, though, it's the only set of documents that would have to be approved by a judge.
Well, he's doing that in response to Massie and my bill. I mean, he is, it's not a coincidence that he announced that last night before the bill was allowed to be voted on in the House. He was trying to ward off the Republicans from allowing a vote on Massie and my bill. But as you pointed out, the grand jury testimony and grand jury files largely concern Epstein and Maxwell. They're the ones who were prosecuted. It will not have the witness interviews that really implicate the rich and powerful men who were potentially engaged in sex trafficking. It will not have a lot of the emails and the texts. And as you pointed out, it requires a court order to unseal those files. Typically, courts are reluctant to do that. They may in this case, but there's a lot within the Justice Department that the Justice Department could release, and they can do so while protecting victims' identity.
I wanted to switch gears and ask you about the massive blow to public media and local news. The House gave final approval to the rescission package that strips $1.1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds over 1,500 NPR and PBS stations across the country. Rescission has not been used for more than a quarter of a century. It allows for the president to request Congress to claw back funds already allocated using a simple majority. White House Budget Director Russell Vought praised the rescission vote. It indicated it would come into more frequent use. He spoke to reporters yesterday.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Yeah, whatever's credible, she can release it. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good. But it's just it's just a subject. He's dead. He's gone. And all it is the certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats, and they're following a Democrat playbook. And no different than Russia, and all the other hoaxes. They're started by the Democrats, and some Republicans, in this case I was surprised, but they got duped.
We're now going to go to the right side.
We're looking forward to the House blessing the Senate package. I'm not worried about it. We need to get it done and get it across the finish line, but very historic moment, the return of using rescissions, getting the muscle memory for that back into the system. We've talked about defunding Corporation for Public Broadcasting for decades. President Trump's the first one to be able to do it. He had a lot of enthusiasm for this package, and we're just thrilled that we made it through that critical juncture last night.
Wait a second.
Author of Project 2025 that called for ending funding for public media. The federal government has been supporting public media for more than half a century. Congressmember Ro Khanna, can you talk about this campaign against public media and how the entire funding of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was just clawed back?
Well, it's a devastating blow to the education of our children in America and to our democracy. Let me put this in perspective. They cut the public broadcasting funding, which is about $1 billion. At the same time, just last week, they voted for tax breaks for billionaires that added to the deficit $3.8 trillion. That means 3,800 times more than the cuts to public broadcasting were the tax breaks to billionaires adding to the deficit. So it's just not true that this has anything to do with fiscal responsibility. What it will do is deprive our children of things like Daniel Tiger, educational programming. Private corporations don't do that because they don't have the money to invest in social and emotional research. I highly recommend your viewers watch Fred Rogers' testimony explaining why we need public educational programming. What it will do is cut NPR and PBS that invest money in sending journalists to places where people don't have health care, to places where there's poverty, where there's low wage, things that broadcast television, that paid television don't want to cover. And so it is a devastating blow to our robust democracy and education.
Congressmember Ro Khanna, I want to thank you for being with us. Democratic Congressmember from Silicon Valley, Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. As we stay on this issue of defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which will impact the entire public media ecosystem built up over decades. But some local stations and communities depend more on CPB funding than others. For more, we're joined now by Loris Taylor. She's the president and CEO of Native Public Media, a member of the Hopi Nation. Her recent article is headlined, "When a Station Goes Dark, We Lose." Welcome to Democracy Now!, Loris Taylor. I want to thank you for being with us. Nearly 60 tribal stations are a part of Native Public Media. Almost 36 of those stations have CPB, community service funding. Can you talk about what this means for the country, this complete ending of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting?
Well, this news has been really devastating to Indian country. We have tribes in Arizona, Navajo, Hopi, the Tohono, White Mountain Apache, the Alaska Natives in Alaska, and our relatives in the Midwest who are impacted by this decision. These stations provide news, emergency communications, educational content, and other information to really fulfill the information needs of tribal citizens, and to have a sweeping decision that's this profound and this impactful is going to really hurt Native communities.
And can you talk about what exactly these stations provide for their communities? For example, early warning systems.
Well, let me talk about the alerting system capability of stations. Our stations are able to send out emergency alerts over the radio and television. They're able to connect to the wireless emergency alert system as well. And one of the things that's going to be impacted in this case is the new missing and endangered persons alert that was just approved by the FCC on August 7th, 2024. It's scheduled to go live September 7th, 2025, and to have 36 stations taken out of the system is going to be a hit. As you know, Native Americans suffer, twice as much to violence, and there are a lot of missing and murdered women and indigenous persons cases, over 10,000 right at this time.
You wrote a letter to the South Dakota Republican Senator Mike Rounds, urging him not to vote for the rescission package. Senator Rounds did vote in favor of the package, but in a statement wrote, in order for me to support this legislation, we had to find a way to continue support for these radio stations, which offer potentially life-saving information in some of the most rural parts of our nation. These stations play a vital role in South Dakota, delivering critical emergency alerts and public safety information. They need to be protected. I work with the Trump administration to find unused climate change money that will be reallocated to continue grants to tribal radio stations. I'm pleased we secured $9.4 million to make certain the dozens of tribal radio stations receiving CPB community service grants across 11 states can continue operating without interruption. Can you talk about the significance of this, how you responded to this?
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge, I'm thankful to Senator Rounds for placing tribal stations on the national agenda. But here's the deal. We've heard about this deal after it was posted on X. I'm not a subscriber of X, so it came to me through other means. We have not spoken with Senator Rounds. I did write a letter expressing my concern that Green New Deal monies are climate and energy dollars, and it's a visionary framework that has no funding ability that I know of, and it does not authorize funding for public broadcasting. So I wanted to know, how is this going to work? As you know, CPB is explicitly designed to manage appropriations from Congress on behalf of the 1,500 stations across the country. There are mechanisms that are already in place. There are compliance requirements that we have to abide by. So my question was, give me details. How is this going to be accessible? Does it need congressional authority? Are there other legislative measures that need to be taken? I don't have any answers to this day.
Loris Taylor, can you talk about the importance of Native public media during the height of the COVID pandemic?
Native public media was called into action during COVID. And if there's any time or crisis that has demonstrated the need for local information systems, it was COVID-19. COVID-19 hit Native American communities who were devastated by hundreds of individuals died across nearly every single tribe. Some tribes were hit so much that they worried that they would become extinct. And so what we learned was that people want to be informed in real time when a crisis hits. During COVID, they wanted to know about hospital protocols, where to find equipment or PPE, safety gear, where to find food, whether or not there were roadblocks. And so there was a lot of information, and as you may recall, this information need was really fast moving. And so we learned from COVID-19 that our stations are there are safety hubs, they're about our public health, and they're also about our civic health. And now to have that stripped away, I'm afraid that with the climate crisis increasing, that we are going to be operating on the margins of information and are not going to have real life-saving information available to our citizens when they need it most.
And finally, we just have 20 seconds, but the preservation of indigenous languages spoken on your stations.
Well, that along language speaking programs by Navajo, Hopi, and all the tribes that were once stakeholders in public media may go silent. And I just want to say that public media is for everyone. But I'm not going to let this moment silence Native American voices. We're going to move into recovery and see what we can do to stabilize the system.
Loris Taylor, thank you so much for being with us. CEO and President of Native Public Media, a member of the Hopi Nation, joining us from Flagstaff, Arizona. We want to end today's show congratulating our producer, Hani Massoud, and his wife, Aisha, on the birth of their daughter. Welcome to the world, Safa. And a fond farewell to Tammy Warnock, who's worked with us as a producer since 2018 as part of our amazing Headlines team. We wish you all the very best. You are now a part of our DNA. That's Democracy Now! Alumni. We're hiring for multiple positions. Find out more at democracynow.org/jobs. That does it for our show. I'm Amy Goodman. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.
This is 89.9 KUNM and KUNM HD, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, a public service of the University of New Mexico. Also broadcasting on KRRT Arroyo Seco, KRRE Las Vegas, KRAR Española, and KBOM Socorro, with translators K220EM Naizi, K220AV Taos, K213ET Eagle Nest, and K216CU Cuba. Online at KUNM.org.
if you want, but he can't connect the dots. That's just not the way he makes foreign policy decisions.
How does President Trump approach foreign policy? Our correspondents explain.
Today is Friday, July 18th, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
Summers.
And I'm Elsa Chang. President Trump told his attorney general to seek the release of grand jury testimony related to Jeffrey Epstein.
We hear from one of Epstein's accusers about the handling of the case files.
I think it's all about accountability. I think that if we have names, we kind of can get more of a sense of the inner workings.
Also, a look at the long, complex history between the U.S. and Chinese film industries.
If you're running a Hollywood studio, if you can add $100, $200, $300 million to the global gross by getting it into China, you absolutely will.
First, this news.
Exit right.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Venezuela says it has swapped a group of U.S. citizen detainees for hundreds of its nationals being held in El Salvador. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports.
Venezuela's government says it liberated 252 of its citizens that had, quote, been kidnapped and taken to a concentration camp in El Salvador. In exchange, it says it handed over a group of U.S. citizens jailed in Venezuela for proven participation in serious crimes. The U.S. State Department says 10 Americans were freed from Venezuela, held under highly questionable circumstances. The prisoner swap had been in the works for months and was promoted by El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele, who says the Venezuelans deported from the U.S. were members of a violent gang. Bukele says also part of the exchange was the release of political prisoners in Venezuela. Carrie Kahn, NPR News.
President Trump has signed into law the first major crypto legislation ever in the United States. NPR's Raphael Nam reports it marks a pivotal moment for the U.S., but many consumer advocates are concerned.
The signing comes after Congress passed legislation setting rules for a type of cryptocurrency called stablecoins. President Trump pushed hard for the bill, but consumer advocates are very concerned. They say Trump has a conflict of interest because he and his family have financial interest in the crypto industry, and they worry crypto is still too volatile and risky for most Americans.
That's NPR's Raphael Nam reporting. Public radio stations across the nation are scrambling to figure out their next steps after Congress took back billions of dollars in federal funding this week, money that was already approved by lawmakers. The measure cuts $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, cutting off federal support for PBS, NPR, and their member stations. Boise State Public Radio is one of those stations. It has more than 30 broadcast signals across Idaho that provide news and music programming, including in rural areas. Tom Michael is the general manager of the station.
I mean, a lot of hard decisions to come, but also there's a lot of innovation in public media, and I don't want that to be lost either. There are a lot of regional collaborations. In 2018, we stood up a regional journalism collaboration called the Mountain West News Bureau, and we share content with other stations. I think a future model of this loose federation of public radio stations across the country would include more coordination and more consolidation.
President Trump had pushed to end federal funding because he sees NPR and PBS as politically biased, which both organizations deny. At the close on Wall Street, the Dow was down 142 points. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Live from the University of New Mexico, this is KUNM. It's 5:04. I'm Mark Haslett. In Albuquerque, the local agency tasked with providing a non-police response to behavioral health issues is dividing into two parts, this in an effort to serve the city better. The Albuquerque Journal's Nikayla McClelland reports Albuquerque Community Safety will be splitting its operations into eastern and western zones. Interstate 25 will mark the dividing line between the sectors. Local officials say about 60% of calls to Albuquerque Community Safety come from the city's eastern side. That's also where the agency has its operations center on San Mateo Boulevard, a few blocks north of Gibson Boulevard. The Journal reports ACS plans to open a western office on 98th Street, just south of Central Avenue. Albuquerque Community Safety responds to more than 3,000 calls each month and responded to a record number of calls in June. In the East Mountains, locals in Tijeras are making do without the use of a pedestrian bridge damaged in a flash flood last weekend. Tijeras received about 3 inches of rain and hail in about half an hour. The Albuquerque Journal reports the Los Vecinos Community Center Bridge will likely have to be rebuilt entirely, and construction won't begin until spring of next year. The bridge links the community centers to nearby elementary and middle schools. Officials said Tijeras will provide a shuttle for students going to school or summer programs until the bridge is repaired or replaced.
Have an old car you're not using? Why not turn it into something powerful, like support for KUNM? We accept all kinds of vehicles, cars, trucks, RVs, you name it. Donating is quick and easy, towing is free, and you'll receive a KUNM membership. Best of all, you'll be powering the station you count on, keeping the music, news, and voices you love on the air.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Juana Summers in Washington.
And I'm Elsa Chang in Culver City, California. President Trump says he is already ending several conflicts around the globe and that he is working to conclude several more. He's doing that by applying his love of cutting deals to global relationships, like take the war between Russia and Ukraine. Just this week, he threw his support behind a deal for new weapons for Ukrainian defense. But this is what he said when he was asked if the decision meant he had picked a side in the war.
No, I'm on nobody's side. I'm the no. Why? I want to. You know what the side I'm on?
humanity's side.
He started by saying nobody's side. So what does this tell us about Trump's approach to foreign policy? Well, to help us break all of this down, we're joined now by NPR senior White House correspondent Tamara Keith and national security correspondent Greg Myrie. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
Hi, Elsa.
All right, Tam, let's start with you. We're 6 months now into Trump's second term. How would you summarize his approach to foreign policy this time around?
Well, as you said, he is very focused on deals, peace deals, trade deals, deals for American businesses. Though many of those deals are proving elusive so far. And he has a personal approach. That is, it is often about personal relationships, how he feels about the other world leaders he's dealing with. And then there are his two defining slogans: peace through strength and America first. But slogans don't make a doctrine or guiding principle. And often it seems like aides and supporters are trying to mold those slogans around his decisions rather than the other way around. So as I was trying to make sense of this, I called several foreign policy experts from across the spectrum. And John Bolton put it most bluntly. He served as national security advisor in Trump's first term and says there is no national security grand strategy.
He made thousands of decisions in his first term, many of which I agreed with, but they're out there like a big archipelago of dots. You can try and connect the dots if you want, but he can't connect the dots. That's just not the way he makes foreign policy decisions.
And you know, Elsa, Trump clearly prefers the art of the deal to the art of diplomacy. You know, as some people have put it, you do deals with friends or business partners, and you do diplomacy with adversaries. But that's often a very hard process. You often have to make tough compromises in what's a long, drawn-out process.
Absolutely. Well, what about specific examples when it comes to wars? Like, where can Trump claim credit for actually ending
Firefly
a conflict?
Probably the Israel-Iran war is the best example. Israel launched a surprise air campaign last month, and it set off 12 days of intense fighting. And the U.S. wasn't just some disinterested party here. Trump's team closely coordinated with Israel, and the U.S. carried out one night of major airstrikes. But after that, Trump really declared a unilateral ceasefire, and that's what happened, and it is holding. His role in ending this conflict was crucial. Now, we should stress that in this conflict and others, the fighting stopped, but there was no real resolution of the larger conflict. We still don't know the exact status of Iran's nuclear program, whether Iran will try to rebuild it quickly, and that's really the core issue here.
Right. Okay, well, what about a place where Trump has not had success, but definitely wants success, like the Russia-Ukraine war?
Elsa, this is a really good example of Trump wanting a quick deal, even though it doesn't appear a realistic option. He thought he could work very swiftly with Russian leader Vladimir Putin based on years of a friendly relationship. He was very dismissive of Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky, effectively kicked him out of the White House. But this week, we saw Trump formally adopt a very different stance. He now seems frustrated with Putin. He plans to sell weapons to NATO, which will then send them on to Ukraine. And he's also threatening punitive measures against Russia if it doesn't agree to Trump's proposed ceasefire.
And I just want to point out here that for Trump, this NATO weapons deal checks a lot of boxes. The U.S. doesn't have to spend anything. American manufacturers get to sell weapons. And in the end, Ukraine gets the defensive weapons they were asking for.
And I just want to mention one other conflict, and that's the Israel-Hamas fighting in Gaza. Trump actually inherited a ceasefire in Gaza when he took office in January, but that ended with an Israeli offensive in March. That conflict just keeps grinding on, and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worse than it's ever been.
Well, what about other conflicts that Trump has taken some interest in? Do we know where they stand?
Yeah, when Trump was talking about global conflicts this week, he sort of offered this global tour. Here's part of what he said.
We've been very successful in settling wars. You have India, Pakistan, you have Rwanda and the Congo that was going on for 30 years. India, by the way, Pakistan would have been a nuclear war within another week. The way that was going very badly.
So just a quick fact check here. With India, Pakistan, Secretary of State Marco Rubio did jump in and mediate a truce. The administration certainly deserves credit here. But there's no indication this conflict was on the verge of a nuclear war, and the ceasefire doesn't resolve the larger feud between these countries, which dates back generations. And the Trump administration did help broker this peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda, signed in Washington 3 weeks ago. If it holds, it's a significant achievement, but many deals in this conflict in the past have collapsed.
I'm going to take like a wide lens here, Tam, because U.S. foreign policy often is built around creating stable, long-term relationships. And I'm curious, do you think Trump's approach could be upending expectations among U.S. allies right now?
Well, he has certainly added uncertainty to U.S. relationships with literally dozens of trading partners with his aggressive tariff agenda. But Trump's view is that the rest of the world has been ripping America off. And he's been saying that for decades about trade deficits. He argues that America's allies have been free riders on U.S. military might, and he makes a lot of threats. He walks a lot of them back, but he keeps everyone walking on eggshells. I spoke to Mike Froman, president of the Council on Foreign Relations.
It's a feature, not a bug. I think he views uncertainty as creating additional leverage, creating some suspense, as to how things are likely to come out.
And with all of this, Trump has made himself the center of attention globally. All eyes are on him.
That is NPR's Tamara Keith and Greg Myrie. Thank you to both of you.
You're welcome.
Sure thing, Elsa.
WNBA fans have loads to celebrate. The All-Star Game is this weekend in Indianapolis, home of the game's biggest star, Caitlin Clark. She's been a key force in growing attendance and ratings for the league, but it's not all Skittles and rainbows. The season has also seen complaints about injuries and officiating, and there's a union contract battle on the horizon. NPR's Becky Sullivan joins us now from Indianapolis. Hey there.
Hey.
First of all, Becky, I'm very jealous. So tell us, what is the vibe there? What's the scene?
Oh, I mean, the vibe is great. Yeah, I'm in downtown Indianapolis. It's just transformed for this All-Star Game. Streets are packed with people in gear for their team, especially, of course, a lot of Indiana Fever gear for Caitlin Clark and the rest of that squad. It's really fun to see because, for the WNBA All-Star Game, this is a way bigger event now than it was even just a few years ago, let alone like a decade ago. And I think it really shows the level of growth that the league has seen.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are disappointed because Caitlin Clark's not going to be participating in the All-Star Game, right?
Yeah, it's a bummer. She was supposed to participate not just in the game, but also in the three-point contest tonight. But she, tweaked her kind of right upper inner thigh, groin injury in the final minute of a regular season game earlier this week, which, it's too bad. She's missed a bunch of games already this season, actually, due to injuries. And this one especially is painful because, it's the first All-Star game in her city, Indianapolis. It's not what anybody wanted, but obviously still tons of other big stars here. You've got Asia Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces, Nafisa Collier of the Minnesota Lynx. She's the favorite to win MVP. So plenty of star power still.
I know there have been a lot of questions about the quality of officiating in the WNBA this season. Is that on players' minds there?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, not just the quality of the officiating, but the sort of knock-on effects it has, the how it can make the play, how it can change the physicality of the game that's being played, how that can lead to injuries. It's definitely a big topic of conversation right now among the league, hearing it from players and coaches alike. So earlier today I was talking with Kelsey Plum about it. She's a guard with the Los Angeles Sparks. Here's what she said.
I have no problem with the physicality. I think people get frustrated at the consistency. So it's like a ticky-tack here, and then someone gets absolutely assaulted over here. And like, where's the line? And when do we call it? And why do we call it?
And I think big picture, Juana, like the WNBA has grown a lot. The players are better. Play is faster. There are more games because the league has added additional games to the schedule to try to kind of cash in on this boom in interest. So players now have to deal with more games in a compressed time frame. I think, the problems with officiating could be a symptom of that kind of growth too. And the league is just, embarking on this ambitious expansion right now. They had 12 teams in the league last season. There's 13 this season. There's plans to keep adding more until there are 18 teams in 2030. That's big. It's a big, dramatic expansion. It's going to take a lot of work to make sure all that goes smoothly.
One more thing, Becky. I know there are negotiations happening for a new collective bargaining agreement between the Players Union and the league. Has that come up at all in Indy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there was in fact a big meeting yesterday that around 40 players attended. And so they were all talking about that today. There's still major gaps between the two sides, the owners and the players, on the issues of money, because basically the league has, all of this new revenue coming in. They have this record new media rights deal that kicks in next season. They have these big expansion fees that these new teams are paying. And yet the player salaries are still quite low. Their overall share of revenue is lower than in men's major professional sports. And so, Asia Wilson, I think, really said it today. She was speaking about the players' mentality about what they see as an opportunity.
This is no laughing matter. This is no trend. This is no moment in just right now. We're talking about long-term stuff. This is a business. This is a brand. You're dealing with me, my livelihood, my future, the next generation. So we're going to take this very, very seriously, and I think we're not going to stop until we understand exactly what we want.
Becky, what's the timeline for these negotiations?
Well, the deadline is just after the season ends, and so, that's in October. There's a lot of time until then, but after that, you might risk a work stoppage, and I really can't imagine any worse development for this momentum in the WNBA than that.
NPR's Becky Sullivan, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
And you're listening on KUNM. It's 5:18. I'm Mark Haslett. Some strong to severe thunderstorms making their way across northeastern New Mexico at the moment. A severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued for parts of central Colfax County. This includes Interstate 25 between mile markers 429 and 446. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for that area. In San Miguel County, strong to severe storms making their way across that part of the state. We have flood advisories in effect for areas just south of Las Vegas and also in the north central part of San Miguel County, north of Trementina. Elsewhere around the state in Socorro County, a flash flood warning along the eastern slope of the Magdalenas remains in effect due to storms this afternoon. However, that warning statement set to expire at 5:30. A flood advisory for parts of northern Socorro County along the Rio Grande Valley remains in effect until 7 o'clock this evening. And in southern New Mexico, a flood watch in parts of Lincoln County, including Ruidoso, remains active. However, that watch statement is set to expire at 6 o'clock. Across most of the state this evening, a slight chance for showers and isolated thunderstorms, about a 30% chance for rain in Albuquerque and Santa Fe both this evening. Overnight low temperatures in the 60s across most of the state, with lows dropping into the 50s in the northern mountains and highlands. This weekend, seasonably warm with sunny mornings and a chance for late afternoon and evening showers, with rainfall more likely in the higher elevations. Afternoon high temperatures in Albuquerque and Socorro should climb into the mid-90s tomorrow, with Sunday afternoon highs in the upper 90s along the middle Rio Grande Valley. In northern New Mexico, daytime readings should climb no higher than the 80s this weekend.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Raymond James, a firm focused on transforming lives, businesses, and communities through tailored wealth management, banking, and capital market solutions. Disclosures at raymondjames.com. From Indeed, committed to giving job listings increased visibility with relevant candidates through its sponsored jobs feature. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR.
Go straight.
And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Juana Summers.
And I'm Elsa Chang. Danielle Bensky was an aspiring ballerina when she met Jeffrey Epstein. From there, her world would turn upside down. Bensky alleges Epstein sexually abused her, threatened, and coerced her. Epstein was arrested in 2019 on federal charges of sex trafficking minors, but died by suicide before the case could go to trial. Bensky has been speaking out against the Justice Department's decision not to release any additional documents to the public, though just yesterday, President Trump asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to seek the release of grand jury testimony related to the case. Danielle Bensky joins us now. Thank you so much for being here with us.
And thank you for having me. This is really important. Thank you.
I just want to start, if you're comfortable, Can you tell us what you went through with Epstein?
Yeah, so I was a ballet dancer, and I went to professional performing arts school in the city, and I was recruited at a very young age. I was not quite 18 at the time, and I met Epstein, and at first it wasn't, the abuse didn't start until a little bit later, and my mother was diagnosed with a brain tumor. She had an acoustic neuroma. I had been to the mansion before, and I knew that he had a model of a brain that was in sculpture form. So nobody knew where his money had come from at that point. All I knew was that he was a very powerful person, and it felt very intimidating, and he often manipulated us to feel that intimidation. So I didn't know where the money came from, and I thought that it came from neuroscience. And so when my mom had discovered that she had a brain tumor, I had gone to him and showed him the brain scans. And when I did, that was when everything evolved and the world kind of came crashing down for me, in that he said basically, okay, well, what will you do for this? He had said, I know the top brain surgeons at Mount Sinai. I have all of this power, and I can use it to help you, or I can make it really difficult for your mother. For myself, I was a teenager, and I was a young teenager, and I just felt like I had to go along with it for her safety, and so I did, and that was when the abuse turned for me.
I'm so sorry you went through all of that.
Thank you.
What went through your mind when you found out that the Justice Department was essentially closing the case and had decided not to release further information to the public, apart from what President Trump asked for last night?
It is a level of sadness that I don't think people quite grasp, because there's depression involved. There's disassociation happened for me for quite some time. There's this level of re-traumatization that happens regularly when this stuff kind of resurfaces. It's so important to get stories like this out, because we don't want it perpetuated. And if history is erased, then we don't have anything to point to. So for me, I feel it's incredibly saddening, but also, it's the reason why I felt the need to speak up.
Yes. Well, as we said, President Trump has asked the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to release all pertinent grand jury testimony. What did you make of that particular request? Because even though grand jury testimony is not the full scope of the Justice Department's files on Jeffrey Epstein, do you see that request as a good development, a productive development?
Honestly, the grand jury proceedings, they'll be highly redacted, I'm sure. And it's a far cry from making information available to the public. And there's so much that we will be missing out on. And it's...
What would you be hoping to learn if the files on Jeffrey Epstein were to be fully released to the public?
At the roundabout.
Though redacted, I'm sure, in large portion.
I think it's all about accountability. I think that if we have names, we kind of can get more of a sense of the inner workings. As a young teen, when I was there were so many eyewitnesses. There were people everywhere in his house, from the housekeeper to the maid that brought me upstairs, all of this, right? And it always baffled me of, especially in my older years now, how is this possible that nobody spoke up? And I just feel that without having a list of names, or not even the list of names, I think just to have the files and be able to see the scope of it, just to be able to get more insight on the inner workings, I think would be beneficial for everybody.
Right. The Justice Department had concluded that there is no so-called client list, but we have seen a lot of backlash to the Justice Department's conclusions about the case. Backlash among President Trump supporters, which has brought, of course, this case back into the headlines for the past several days. What has that been like for you to watch this case politicized in that way?
I think we've had multiple presidents since we began unraveling all of this. And for me, I think that the case transcends politics, and we have to remember that these are human stories, right? And we're just looking for closure, and it doesn't ever seem to come. So to put it into the media and make it this politicized event, it's really disheartening to, I think we're losing a bit of the humanity in it.
Well, in the Justice Department's conclusion, it did acknowledge Epstein harmed more than 1,000 victims, and the department said, quote, "One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims." Given how you're feeling in this moment, do you think the government has brought justice to victims here?
Turn right. Yeah, I don't believe that they have. I think that we sit with all of these thoughts, and we sit with all this lives in the darkest places of ourselves. And I think that without the accountability piece, we're never going to be able to fully heal. And we're never going to be able to see accountability if we're not looking at the full scope of the case. And how can we do that if everything is constantly redacted?
Well, Danielle, you've been dealing with the personal consequences of meeting Jeffrey Epstein for several decades now. Can I just ask how you're doing with all this renewed public attention on the case? How heavily does this still weigh on you?
I think that your past informs your future. And after the abuse with Jeffrey, I couldn't look at myself in a leotard and tights for quite some time. I did not want to do ballet. I did not want to do much of anything because I was so disassociated from who I was. So I started on this journey of choreography, and I realized how important movement therapy is, and feeling in control of my body again and telling stories. And so I've moved into this world of choreography with youth repertory theater. And, my intention now is to create a very holistic performer who understands how to prevent injury, who understands how to meditate and keep themselves very whole. And so I think it informs me in the way that I want to be the person that I didn't have at that age. And so it's been a really beautiful time to come back to the parts of myself that were lost when I was a kid and try to really build kids up in the sense that they can feel whole, so that this doesn't happen to them.
Danielle Bensky, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the time and the light shed on us survivors.
This is NPR News. Due to recent deportations, almost 56,000 people are being held in immigration detention. That means some U.S.-born kids are left to fend for themselves.
The children are American citizens. Suddenly, the breadwinner, the head of household, was gone.
A reporter reflects on spending time in U.S. communities while covering immigration on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can hear Weekend All Things Considered every Saturday and Sunday at 5 o'clock on KUNM. If you're curious as to how cuts in federal funding would affect KUNM, well, we have some answers for you. Coming up in less than 5 minutes, we'll hear a conversation with new KUNM General Manager new KUNM General Manager Jeff Pope, describing the effects of cuts. That report coming up in less than 5 minutes. We're on listener-supported KUNM.
Wait a second. Shouldn't we go that way?
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Elsa Chang.
And I'm Juana Summers. Coming up, a possible new set of tariffs is around the corner, and it might cover a broad part of the U.S. economy.
The real challenge is that we're seeing tariffs as a hammer, and every problem with our allies and adversaries as a nail.
Now news.
Live from NPR News in Culver City, California, I'm Dwayne Brown. The Environmental Protection Agency intends to dismantle its research wing that assesses the impact of air pollution on the public. NPR's Alejandra Barunda has more.
EPA's Office of Research and Development has been part of the agency since the 1970s. Congress asked the agency to create the wing to research environmental risks the agency might regulate. Its scientists figured out things like how air pollution hurts human health and how pollutants like PFAS affect plants, animals, and humans. Their work informs regulations. Earlier this year, the Trump administration announced its intention to reorganize EPA and potentially shutter ORD. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced Friday the agency will move forward with that plan. Critics say shuttering the office would disembowel the agency's ability to work on environmental and human health. The agency says it will have shrunk its workforce by more than 3,700 employees after the reorganization is complete. Alejandra Gorunda, NPR News.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says it isn't up to her if ICE deports a Maryland man awaiting trial in Tennessee for a second time. Mariana Bacallao reports.
Abrego Garcia, the man wrongfully deported to El Salvador in March, is still in federal custody, despite a federal judge ruling that he could go free. That's because prosecutors say ICE may deport him before he's able to stand trial for human smuggling charges. As part of her visit to Nashville today, Secretary Noem told reporters that she wants him to stand trial.
When that is done and that process is over, he should never be allowed to be free in the United States of America. So even if he goes home to his home country, my hope is that he will be incarcerated there for the rest of his life as well.
But she says that whether he's deported before that happens isn't under her purview. For NPR News, I'm Mariana Bacallao in Nashville.
This is NPR.
On listener-supported KUNM, it's 5:32. I'm Mark Haslett. KUNM will lose 12% of its budget, or about $275,000, after the House passed the rescission bill that was put forth at the request of President Donald Trump. KUNM's Daniel Montano reports the station's new general manager, Jeff Pope, says the cut could have drastic effects, but remains confident the station will find a way to forge ahead.
The rescission bill repeals $9 billion in funds already approved by Congress, including $1.1 billion of which that was destined for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to support NPR, PBS, and local public media organizations across the country. Pope says the money KUNM receives from the CPB goes to cover daily operating expenses and pays for national programming like Native America Calling, Morning Edition, All Things Considered, and more.
We're self-sustaining, even though we're on the campus of the University of New Mexico. We have to sustain all of our operations by ourselves, so we only get to spend what we make here. And so losing $275,000 out of a $2.2 million budget is a big chunk of change.
And it's not just news and talk radio at risk. Pope says the CPB brokers and pays for music licensing for stations, which might be something stations will have to handle on an individual basis, including KUNM. That could impact the type of music and cultural programming that gets broadcast. However, Pope says KUNM will look for new ways to cover the lost funding, engaging more with the audience, donors, sustaining members, and underwriters.
So we're going to go to the partners and we're going to go to our donors and say, please help us move forward and get through this loss. And I'm really excited. I know that we'll get through this, and I know that we'll not just survive. Our goal is to thrive.
Over 60 years, KUNM has built a strong relationship with its community, and Pope says he plans to strengthen that bond even further.
If all of our donors just gave $4 more each month, we would have this gap covered. Give what you can, give the best you can, and tell your neighbor. It matters now more than ever.
For KUNM, I'm Daniel Montano.
Mia Casas contributed to that report. Under KUNM's policy for reporting on itself, no upper management reviewed the content before it was broadcast.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from BritBox, presenting Outrageous, a new BritBox original drama based on the scandalous true story of England's infamous Mitford sisters. Streaming this and more original series at BritBox.com. From Carrier, committed to providing climate and energy products and services to help enhance lives. More information is at Carrier.com. Carrier, for the world we share. And from
I couldn't wait for you to come and clear the cupboards. But now you're gone and leaving nothing but a sign. Another evening I'll be sitting reading in between your lines, because I miss you all the time.